Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
Give us a call at 866-594-4150 and we'll get you on the air and answer your automotive questions for free, of course. And if you don't like our answer, we'll double your free back.
Works well that way.
It always does.
Doesn't cost anybody anything.
Actually, we've got like almost a full stack of calls already here, so we're just going to jump right in, and we're going to talk to Bill in Virginia. And Bill has a 1997 Eagle Vision. It's been a while since we've talked about one of those.
Yeah,
how you doing, Bill?
Eagle Vision Quest to start the day here. What do you got going on with the Eagle Vision?
Yeah, I have this check engine light that comes on, and it's been going on for several years. And it's P0300,
Oh, yeah.
302, 304, and 306. My mechanic, he's checked everything out. He can't find nothing wrong. It runs excellent. You can't run any better than it does. And he said just to keep driving it until it gets worse. And it could be the PCM module going bad. And my question is, should I get one of these and have it on hand in case I need it, or no? I found a place that does have these, and I can get them, and they're refurbished and they're lifetime warranty. What do you think?
Does the car actually miss on those cylinders? Have they seen that, or they said it runs good?
No,
okay.
It runs excellent.
From our experience, we've seen a few of these cars throw misfire codes down the whole bank on one side, 246, and that's cylinder 246 in the P0300, random because it's got more than one cylinder that's showing a misfire, and they didn't miss at all. It wasn't actually a problem.
So you put the ignition scope on it, there was no miss.
No, and it was the computer, the PCM, we replaced to fix this problem. But again, like I said, it's been a while since we've had a Vision up in our area because the rust kills these things. But down south or out on your coast where you're at, there's a lot of these cars still around. They're still running. You keep them, cars with timing belts, if you keep those up, if you watch chains on other ones and you keep the maintenance done, these cars can last a really long time. I would say, yeah, if you can find that computer. I did have somebody looking for one of these probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I wasn't able to locate one easily. So I would say if you can get your hands on one now.
Is this car, I'm just going to jump in a little deeper here. Is this car a 3.5 or a 3.0? Which motors, or 3.3? Which motors it got?
3.5.
The chained, timing chain 3.5 with an overhead cam. They were not historically a motor that would go and have a problem with much of anything. That was a really strong engine. The computer is going to be similar to a lot of those LH cars, the Chrysler LHS, the, oh my gosh, Russ, what was the other one?
Concorde.
Yeah, Chrysler Concorde. They made those cars, and they were ahead of their time with that forward cab, kind of long A-pillars. That car looked current for a long, long time. And you might also check Car Dash Part, one of our partners, and see what's out there for a used one, because I have had reason to check on one of these one day, and I was surprised that I did see that the number had shrunk, but there was still quite a few of them out there. And there's also a lot of these cars ending up in self-service yards. You just have to watch the option on whether or not they had the factory security or not, because one you can put in there, it'll start, and then the car will shut off right away if you don't get the right one. And so you got to make sure you match it. But I guess I'm going to go back to what Russ said. If this is running good and working good, we know it's not actually misfiring. It's just giving it a random code.
Drive it.
It's probably going to run that way for a long, long time. And how much do they want for the remanufactured computer? That's the question I'm sneaking up on.
Yeah, $209.
Okay.
That's not unreasonable.
I got the place here if you all need this.
No.
I got it from.
We can find them, but some of those companies that are out there that are doing the refurbished computers, some of them are actually, they've opened it up and fixed things in them. Mm-hmm. And other ones are companies that are, and they're great. They take the used computers from a salvage yard or a recycling facility or whatever you want to call it, professional auto recyclers, what we like to call it, and then they will bench test it or test it in some fashion. I don't know what that all entails sometimes. Sometimes I question how in-depth it is, but then they put a warranty on it, clean it up, and put it in a box and sell it as a refurbished, and they play the odds that it's going to be okay and sell it with a lifetime warranty because they know they have other ones. It's not so much that it's going to last a lifetime, it's how they market it. So my point is, you may just go online to Car-Part and find a used one that is out of a car that looks like it was in an accident and was driving, that hopefully didn't have a problem when they wrecked it, because sometimes you see the picture of the source vehicle there, and then buy a used computer probably for $40 to $75 and just have it sitting there if you're thinking you're going to have one there. It's going to be, you're going to get the same opportunity if your car breaks down as you would spending $209. That's my point.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there very much labor involved in this?
No, not at all. And if you, like Shannon says, if you get one from a car that doesn't have security, so you can just plug it in, plug and play, and then your car will activate security in it if it does have it. But if it's the other way around, it won't work at all. But
I can't remember. It says something on the label about. I can't remember how that works. But
so if you get one without security turned on, you can put it in, and then your car, if it does have factory security, will turn on the security in that unit, because once it's been installed and it activates it, it can't be used in a car that does not have a factory anti-theft built into it. But it's a plug and play. Otherwise, you just bolt it in and it runs. It just goes.
Russ, last thing on this for me. Do you remember, is that computer also sitting right down in the left front by the transmission computer?
Yeah, it's
protected in case of an accident, that it's going to get hit for sure?
It's right up front to protect the rest of the car from damage when it gets hit. It's like an airbag for the rest of your car.
They're buried up ahead of the wheel on the left front. You got to take the inner fender off, take the wheel out so you can get at them that way, I believe. And sometimes they get a lot of corrosion on them if they've had penetration of road salts and things got up in there. And we've seen some of those transmission computers look like they've been in the Titanic when they come out.
I had one yesterday that I had to do some wiring repair on because the splash shield was missing, and it was up in there. It was not an Eagle Vision. That would be kind of a miracle in our shop. We just don't. I have not seen one on our parking lot in probably 15 years.
Yeah. It's a little hard to get at, but not bad.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
The radiator hoses. What brand you guys like, or do you like the Daco or the Gates?
The Gates. Gates is our preferred belts and hoses. We like them. They fit well. That the number one thing I can say about Gates is if we buy a Gates product and we put it on a car, when I slip one end on the engine and one end on the radiator, it's actually going to fit 100%. I've not ever had one that I had to stretch or bend around to try to get to fit. With some of the other brands, I've put them on and they don't quite fit well, so I've had to trim the end a little bit to get the angle just perfect where it bolts on the radiator, the thermostat housing. And I don't like that. I like to put a hose on and without the clamps, it should physically just sit on the car perfectly, and then I can clamp it. If I have to twist it before I clamp it, there's going to be a problem there because it's an area of torque where a leak can develop. We don't like leaks. So that's why I like those.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for calling. We appreciate you listening out there in Virginia.
Take care, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
All right, we are going to take a quick break here on the Under the Hood Show, and we'll be right back. 866-594-4150. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants. 866-594-4150. You're listening to Under the Hood with me, Russ Evans, along with Shannon Nordstrom. If you notice, Chris is out today because he's out. He's got COVID. He said his last words.
We shouldn't have laughed. I shouldn't have. Why did I laugh after you said that? That was not right.
Well, he said it was funny. We're laughing because of what he said. He said, he does the Chris and Doc show, which is another popular morning show in the area. When he's not here with us, that's his day job. And he said, yeah, Doc said we should have canceled that Monday morning makeout session, but well, stuff happens. And we're like,
he's being funny about it.
So, because both of them are sick.
Yeah, and it's no good because they both got their stuff going on in their world. So we got to get them guys feeling better. So.
I don't know. I've had it like 5 times now since it came out, and everybody else I know has had it, several times, and maybe you've had it, don't know you had it, but now it's just like, oh, I got the cold. It's the COVID cold, and we'll move on. So, no more talk about that. Well, maybe later if we'll want to get on, Chris. Okay, back we go. We're going to go to Jim. Jim has got a 2013 Toyota Tundra. Love those trucks. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great. Good morning. It's my wife's truck, and
Okay.
she just bought it, and it doesn't blow heat on the floor. I've done lots of actuators in other vehicles. This one looks a little more complicated.
You're right. So on the Tundra, thankfully they don't go out very often. But I think there's one actuator on that truck you can get to without removing the dash.
It's not what he wants to hear, Russ.
No.
I think he already knew that when he called us, though.
Yeah, but it's not
Exactly.
removal of it isn't. Toyotas always seem to be, and always lately with their trucks that have actuators, electric actuators, we'll go with that. If they didn't, I could pull that dash out in 15 minutes. But when they went to the electronic dashes and everything electric behind them, like the actuators and things, it seems like, I don't know, for me, it's an hour to get that dash out to start working on it.
For me, it'd be an hour to think that I even want to try to get the dash out, and then maybe 3 hours to get the dash out.
Yeah, and then a first time do it yourself or at home with some help with some YouTube. I think, a few hours you can get in there to do what you need. Now, I would suggest replacing every motor you see while you've got the dash loose like that. And they're not going to run a ton of money. Actuators can be anywhere from $22 to $50 or $60 a piece on those, and our partner Dorman Products sells them. We've installed them and not had any come back yet, which is a good thing. You don't want them to come back if you pull the dash out and have to go through that labor.
So you're saying replace the ones that you know are in the restricted area,
Right.
with the dash out.
And while you've got it apart, and you when you pull the actuator off, move it by hand back and forth to make sure the door fully opens and closes, and make sure you've got enough of the dash still plugged in when you move it back or replug it in while it's hanging back there. Start the car, warm it up, and run the heat. Actuate it. Look at them. Make sure the shaft is turning fully both directions. You want to make sure everything works, because nothing's worse than putting it all back together to find out you've gained all that experience so you can pull it out again because something didn't work. Maybe you do have an actuator problem. It's going to be super rare, but you could put one in that had a problem. Maybe it got returned and it was in a box and it was supposed to be good and it was the original. And we've had that happen before.
Russ, there is testing he can do ahead of time just to make sure that it's getting the command to actuate, correct? Or is that does that come into the scan of the body control module in that, or is that not?
In a 13 Tundra, you'll be able to look that up, but only with a scanner that has some enhanced data on it. If you've got a scanner that doesn't, it's going to be, you're not going to find it. It's not going to be there.
So you need a little deeper scanner.
Yeah, and if you're looking at one and you see the counts and it's going from one end to the other end, and it's from, like, say, 0 to 250, if you're watching that count, but you see that shaft is not moving the whole way, then it's commanding it, but it's not doing anything. The only way you could find out for sure would be to you got to put a voltmeter right on the module and then look at the feedback from it. It's a lot. So we just basically look at the scanner, we actuate it. If it doesn't move, we put another one on there and then verify it's fixed.
And typically it's going to be the actuator, but you just, there again, you'd hate to go in there and do the actuator and then find out it just wasn't even being commanded to do its move with another problem.
Yeah. Does that help you out a little bit?
It did. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, good luck, Jim. Thanks for calling Under the Hood. All right. We're going to jump right in, and we're going to talk to Brian in Kansas with a 2005 Chevy Trailblazer. Hello, Brian.
Hey, Russ. How's it going?
It's great. It's a cold day where we're at, and the snow is going to melt away again pretty quick. It all left us. And how is it down in Kansas? Is it cold and snowy and icy, or is it a beautiful warm day?
Oh, it's all cleaned off. I'm night shift, so I don't really know what the what it looks like in the day, but I haven't seen snow or ice for a while now.
All right.
in about a week or week and a half.
You're not the Brian that is called the show before that works at the Ford plant, are you?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just as curious. It's been a number of years since we've heard from that person, but I always think I remember correctly when I don't.
I've listened for about 8 years. It's the first time I ever called in on anything.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So the issue I'm having, I've got when I'm cruising along, whether I'm using cruise control or just using foot pedal, I've noticed that I have about a 50 to 200 RPM where the engine will go up and then go down, go up and then go down. And it's kind of done that on and off really intermittently for about a month or two. So then recently in the last 2 weeks, there's developed a little bit of a shudder for about a half a second. Sometimes it lasts as long as 6 seconds when you're on a slight grade and or you've got 10 or 15 mile an hour wind in your face. And I've got a scan tool that shows and watched it while driving, and there's no misfires going on because I thought maybe it'd be that, but other than that, I'm out of ideas.
I'm afraid that in this case with a GM product like that, your problem is probably going to be the transmission more than the engine. In this point, if you have checked for misfires and you don't have any,
it could be that.
I mean, Russ, go ahead and back me up if you got something else you're thinking of.
That's one thing, and it's kicking in and out of lockup on the torque converter. If you lightly rest your foot on the brake pedal just enough to kick the brake lights on while you're still accelerating and driving, if that problem goes away, then it could be just the torque converter clutch, and that can be addressed with possibly a solenoid or a flush with a cleaning first of the transmission. The other thing that we've seen on these vehicles as they start to age are the timing chains and the actuator solenoids on the timing chains causing the camshaft timing to be variable as it drives more than it should. It's supposed to always be variable constantly, but it will variate more than it's supposed to, different than what it's commanded to, and it'll give a little pulsation as you're driving. That could be that too. Those are the two real common things we see on these. Also, make sure that mass airflow sensor is clean on this vehicle, because if it's not, it'll overcompensate. It'll think that it's not getting enough air, and then the engine will rev up a little bit. It'll get a little more air, and then it'll drop down again because it sees that it's getting the air as it goes up. So check that. That's your at-home thing, is to clean that. Also, the timing solenoids are at-home replacement. If you find that they're not working correctly, a scan tool could verify where they're at.
What's he looking for at that point,
Well,
Russ?
you look at commanded versus actual on those, and they could be off just a little bit and give you that feeling, but not be off enough yet to set the code. And the transmission could be the same thing. It might be that it's going into lockup and out of lockup, but it's not quite enough to set the code yet. But it will in time. If you keep driving it, you're going to see that,
I've got no check engine lights on it.
And that sounds
269,000 miles.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot for a Trailblazer.
Yeah, and that's all original as far as you know on everything?
My folks bought it at 10,000 miles, and I bought it from them at 76,000 miles.
Oh, it's done well. That's it. That's good. We do see them with a lot of miles on them, but usually they've had some major surgery done by then of some sort.
Yeah. So there's no noises in the engine or anything on this one?
Nope.
That's great.
I did use K-Seal at 220 because it was about once a month and go through a gallon of coolant, and there was nothing anywhere under it.
So the K-Seal's got 100% money back guarantee, but you didn't need it.
Yeah.
That's always good to hear when it works.
I was very impressed.
Yeah, when we it works most of the time, but it's good to hear when it works from consumers, and it lets other people know that it's something, because a gallon of coolant, that's a lot. So, we appreciate it.
And we made an assumption this is the inline motor, correct?
Yeah, straight six.
Okay, all right. Just checking.
All right.
The V8 was available. I was just double checking.
Thanks for the call, Brian.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the help.
You bet. Take care.
All right. Bye. You too. Bye.
Yeah, that inline six is a great engine in those vehicles. They do last a long time, but we both kind of went woo at almost 300,000, and it's still going.
And then they haven't done anything with those actuators, because I'd forgot about that with being a thing that you guys have worked on quite a bit over time for people on those engines.
Yeah, it's keep driving it. That's amazing. So we're going to take a break here on Under the Hood. Our phone number is 866-594-4150. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. 866-594-4150. That's how you get to the Under the Hood Show, to be live with Shannon and myself, Russ Evans, today. Without Chris, hopefully he's back next week if he gets over that thing.
He's at a 2-show break with his stuff that's come up. We'll get him back to fight and strength here pretty soon. So
we did get him to sneak in at the end of last week, but he is not coming in. We're going to lock that door at the end if he thinks he's coming back today. I'm not going to do it, buddy. Last week it was his back. Now it's his front. Top.
Yeah.
I don't know what's
My
going
wife
on.
has a theory that this was just sprouting when his back started to hurt. So
yeah, that could be it, because I've had that too. When you're starting to get sick, you're like, oh, I can't move. My back hurts.
yeah, that's where mine starts usually.
Oh. Hoodie winner, John Kelly.
John Kelly wins a hoodie from Universal Technical Institute.
Congratulations. UTI.edu. You can find them on the internet, and they will get you all the training you could ever imagine for automotive, marine mechanics, CNC machining, welding, even aircraft mechanics they've added in there now. And they've got campuses all over the United States. So, John, if you're thinking about going to school to be a mechanic, you could wear your hoodie down there, and I'm sure they'd be proud to have you. We're going to jump back into the phones, and we're going to go, we got a whole stack of them there. We're going to go to Dave in Utah, who has a 2002 Ram truck. How you doing, Dave?
Good. How are you?
Well, very well. What's up with your Ram?
Well, it's a Ram, the 2002 Dodge 3/4 ton. I'm just teasing you. 2500. It's got the Cummins 5.9.
He's a regular listener.
He's a listener. I love it. I love it.
And well, I got a story after this to even prove that I was listening to the last episode. But I put all the gauges in it, and I bought a fuel pressure gauge because I heard that the pump on that doesn't like low fuel pressure. And after I got it on, like online, everything I've seen is like says below 10 psi, you're in trouble. I called my friend who owns a diesel injection shop, and he says if it goes below 5, you're in trouble. So I don't know which is which, but when I get on it, it drops down to about 6. So I'm thinking maybe I should buy one of. I was looking at the fast kit, but I'm wondering. I change the fuel filter every time I change the oil, and you can buy just the pump that'll raise your pressure, and that, just buying the pump's a lot cheaper than buying that whole filter kit, which I have not been able to find across to buy filters locally for that. So I'm just wondering if you think those filters are that much better than the stock filter that comes on the truck, and if it's worth the extra money if I'm always changing my filter.
It never hurts to have extra filtration, and I know a lot of people that don't change both of those filters at every oil change. The one on the engine, they've skipped and they've gone every second or third or fourth oil change because they've got the new filter underneath now with that pump. But it also is supposed to have more filtration capacity, more media in that aftermarket filter so that it can last longer. You're still going to replace that at a cost, but it can filter for a longer period of time. So, diesel fuel, it's super important and it's critical that that fuel be 100% clean when it reaches those injectors, or it will cause a problem. So it's important to do that. So, I mean, that'd be your choice, but I would definitely say that, it's a good add-on, but you wouldn't need to change them quite so often. Get the recommendations from the people you're buying that filter from, what they say for the secondary filter on it. But I'm sure they're going to cut down the amount of time extend the amount of time for that change.
Okay.
You got a mouse story too?
Okay. Yeah, so I used to install snow plows.
Okay.
And you have to drill a hole through the firewall to get the wires from the inside of the cab out to the front of the truck. And the the plug that goes into the truck's a fairly big plug, so you got to drill like an 1.8" hole to get the plug in there. And the company doesn't give you like a grommet that would take up all the empty space. So you put that wire harness through, and there's an air gap now. So this was like one of our sales trucks. The salesman took it up after I put the plow on, snowmobiling over the weekend, and then Monday morning he's like, "You got to come out and look at this." So I go out there, and where I'd run that wire through the firewall, there's an Oreo cookie sticking halfway through between the engine bay and the cab, where a mouse had tried to drag the Oreo cookie through that hole. And it didn't tear up any electrical in the truck. It just tore up all of his snacks.
Oh my gosh.
At the end, when you're done snowmobiling, you're hungry as hell. And he couldn't eat anything. It was all, I don't know how many mice got on the because there was mouse poop everywhere and crumbs everywhere. Just totally obliterated all of his food.
So was the mouse trying to take the Oreo out of the truck or into the truck?
Yeah. No, out of the truck, because all the stuff was in his cab, and everything was chewed up and eaten, and there was one more Oreo that he was trying to get out, but the Hulk wasn't quite big enough to get the Oreo out. So it was wedged in there.
Funny, not funny. I don't know that even our friends from New Hampshire Oil Undercoating with their mouse out could probably prevent an open hole with a truckload of bait inside the truck. That would probably not. That I don't know if that would overcome that or not.
That would make a great commercial for them. The little cartoon and the mice are trying to get into the vehicle to get the Oreos. They got little binoculars and they're going, "There's Oreos in there." No, we can't get in. There's mouse out. Oh, come on.
Yeah, their head's sticking through the hole, peeking through.
They're obviously not smart enough to. It's like, just break the cookie in half. Can you chew it? They've got a couple mice on there on each side holding it, and one's jumping on the middle trying to break it in half.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, I love it. Thanks, Dave.
Hey, you guys are the best. Thanks.
You bet. Take care. Mice. Ugh. Can't stand it. We're gonna jump in and we're gonna talk to Ron with Ron has an 09 Pontiac Vibe. Hello, Ron.
Hello, how you doing?
Oh, really good. What's up with the Vibe? What do you got up with update on that?
Well, now I've got a new question. I'm just giving you an update on it.
Okay.
I spoke to you last week on it.
You bet.
And got my cylinder leak down test in.
Yep.
Hooked it up, all happy, ready to test your theory, and found out, nope, I've got a bad head gasket between number 1 and number 2. I've got like 8% leak down on 3 and 4 and 70% leak down on 1 and 2. And the air is going straight from cylinder 1 to cylinder 2. The noise is coming out the spark plug holes. So
there you go.
That not going through the valve, not going through the rings. Pretty obvious. But all the information I can find on 2009 Vibes, there isn't very much on the late body Vibe and Matrix out there, and lots on the early body. But I read that to do a cylinder head gasket on those, you got to drop the motor out the bottom and do it on the ground, or can you still do it while the engine is situ?
I don't think you can get the cover off the front of the engine in order to pull that timing chain to get the head off of it. And that's the reason they want you to take it out. There's just not enough room to move that cover, because you're going to have to take that loose to get in there to the tensioner to collapse it so you can get the chain out. I just don't think there's a few cars we've been able to get in and push the tensioner back very carefully with a screwdriver, a big one, a pry bar, and we can carefully ratchet it back and then put a wedge in there to hold it while we're moving chains off and then pull the head off and things. You can look at that on YouTube and see we have not had to replace a cylinder head on one of these cars, either on the Toyota or on the Vibe. We've just not had a gasket fail on one of those yet. We've had some timing chains go out, but of course, once they break and they're gone,
the motor's gone.
Yeah. So I would definitely I'd drop it out the bottom, pull the cover, and replace the guides in the tensioner in there when you're doing that, and the chain, because then it's done. And this engine, the head gasket could go out or the chains could go out. Those are the two things we've seen kill these engines, but rod wise, they hold up pretty good. So I'd say you got a really good chance of this engine making it a very long time, at least as long as it's made it already. If it's gone 150,000 miles already, may go another 150 if the chain is updated and the head gasket is.
Well, actually, it's 216,000, and I was hoping I could get it out the top because with my physical conditions now, I'll have to pay somebody, and around where I am, they're talking about $1,700.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot on that on any vehicle. But you look at YouTube and see if anybody's cheated and found a way. Like I said, we find those ways in our own shop, but we haven't had to do it on this car. So there might be a way that you can move that tensioner back and put a wooden, like a doorstop wedge in it to hold that thing back while you take the chains loose. Just make sure you keep the timing right on when you're mark everything when you're doing it.
And that's probably too big of a bridge to seal for K-seal. That type of
it wouldn't.
Yeah, there's just too much gone there.
Yep.
And so you're going to have to physically replace it. And then, of course, if you do go down this road, you want to make sure the head and the block are flat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't get too crazy, but make sure you put a straight edge on all of it and make sure it's flat, or else you could have the same problem all over again once you put it back together. And, just last thought on this, a lot of times a person goes in, if the valves look good and everything, I wouldn't talk yourself into like redoing valves or anything. I would just concentrate on getting it sealed and put it back together so everything retains the same pressures. If there's a little leakage, you want a little leakage, because otherwise you might start burning oil because you've got the top end so nice compared to the bottom end. So just try to keep it all original, but just get it sealed if you do go down this road.
Okay, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. The trouble is I've done looking, like you said, on YouTube and stuff, and everything's for the early model, the 1ZZ, and this is the 2ZZ, and it's different. And so I guess I'll have to go find somebody and pay 3/4 of what I paid for the car to get it fixed so I have a car. So,
yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, take a look at find the service instructions and see exactly what they say, just if you can't find anything on YouTube, and just kind of go through it, because there's stuff out there sometimes that hasn't made it to YouTube. It's kind of hard to believe. Sometimes it's not all out there, but every once in a while I run across something, I check YouTube, I'm like, there's nothing out there. That's very unusual anymore, though. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to jump right over to, I guess we're going to take a break first. Producer Doug says, take a break first. So we're going to do that. All right, we'll be right back on the Under the Hood Show. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show, 866-594-4150. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom, and we are going to jump right back in the phones, and we're going to talk to Jake. Jake has an 09 F350. How you doing, Jake?
Good. How are you guys?
We're awesome. How's your truck?
Well, it runs at least, but my 4-wheel drive is not working.
Oh, okay.
Got a 4x4 low light blinking on the dash, and can't seem to pinpoint it.
Is it in 4-wheel drive low?
No, and
Good.
I replaced the transfer case shift control module or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and that didn't do anything. It still kept blinking, so I don't know. I also replaced the transfer case shift motor, and that, I don't know, that thing got real hot one day, so that could be the issue. The new one did.
Sure.
But even with both those items replaced, you're getting the same flashing low on your 4-wheel drive shift button.
Yeah, correct. And it won't engage or nothing, just flashes.
Yep. Well, the GEM module has control of that, and the generic electronic module, or general, whatever you want to call it, it's GEM module, part of the body control module. You'll need to plug a scanner into that and read and see what it says. Have you done that yet?
I had plugged it in, and it just said something about that shift motor I was trying to figure out the wiring on it and figure out it. To me, it seems like a wire's cut somewhere. The wiring's kind of a nightmare on an older pickup like that. Kid owned it, so.
It could be. We've seen some broken wires down below near the transfer case, and then also up where those wires run up towards the top of the transmission. We've seen them rub through there by the back of the engine on some of these. You could look at that real closely and make sure that nothing is broken. But if you get a code in the transfer case shift motor, I think it's a CO45 or something like that. I think it is. It's a circuit code for that shift motor. If that's in there, any circuit codes usually indicate either a bad shift motor, which you've already replaced, so probably not that, or a wiring, where wiring is open. That can do it as well.
I put a cheap shift motor in it, and it got hot after, I felt that shift motor, and it got real hot one day, but it was working fine, and then a couple days later, the 4x4 low light started blinking again.
So it did work for a short period?
I put a TRQ, if you're familiar with the cheaper brand.
Yeah, it may be that failed again. Some of those motors are just not built really strong, and what happens is as they try to operate the transfer case, they get stuck, and then they get hot, and then they fail internally. So it may be that it just failed. I mean, we use our partner Dorman Products for these shift motors a lot, and we put a number of them on. In fact, transfer cases have been kind of crazy the last few weeks for us in our shop, and here at our auto recycling center, we've sold a ton of them. And I think it's just because of the light ice condition on the road, and a lot of people had spinning wheels on one end when they were trying to engage them, and it caused some damage in those cases. But along with those, we sold a lot of shift motors too, and replaced a lot of shift motors, and we use the Dorman Products one on all of them. We don't have them come back like some of them, so you might try if return that one for warranty if you can, and step up to a Dorman one, get one so it's a little heavier. But also, make sure that you can shift that.
That's what I was just going to say. When you've got that off, make sure you don't have something stuck in the transfer case that is not allowing it to shift.
Check the fluid in it, make sure it's not burnt or metal in it, and make sure it does shift by hand like it's supposed to.
Mark the position it's in so you don't get yourself in trouble. I think that'll only go on one way, but just make sure you know where it's at, and then just see if you can manually move that, because if that's stuck, then you're going to burn up another one after that, and the problem's actually inside the transfer case.
Yeah, we've had a few of them where we knew the motor was bad, and we put a motor on it, and it turned out to be the case was full of metal. So, but double check that, and we'll cross our fingers.
It'll still drive fine, though.
Sometimes they will
drive fine if that case is.
Yeah, unless it's got a lot of metal in it, and then chunks get jammed up in the chain, and it breaks something. But typically, we see a lot of them that have been driving. Some people said, "Hey, I've been driving for 6-7 years, and I decided I want to fix my 4-wheel drive now." And we're like, "Whoa, that case is nasty bad inside." But it didn't work, so we upgraded it and fixed it. But
inspect your fluid and see if there's metal filings on the fluid or not. That'll tell you something.
I changed it last year, so it maybe after I changed it didn't like it.
Could be. Check it out. Thanks for the call, Jake.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. We're going to jump right over and talk to, looks like Greg with a 2003 Chevy Avalanche. Hello, Greg.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Great. How is your Avalanche?
Actually, it's pretty good. I got a 2003 on the third owner. It's rolling up on 298,500 miles on the original motor. I guess I'm calling just to kind of find out from you guys what I should do to keep this thing going. It's got great oil pressure, 4-wheel drive works, no check engine lights. I just kind of want to do more preventative maintenance like the other two owners have done. I just don't want to go overboard with it.
All right. Well,
whatever they've been doing, keep doing it.
Right. Transmission flush.
Yeah. Regular oil changes and everything.
Okay.
What's that?
Transmission flush. If you haven't done it, complete flush, not just dropping the pan on it. So, put a cleaner in it, drive it, flush it with the machine, and then put an additive in it. The transmissions are pretty tough on those, but they can fail with age due to some gummed up shift solenoids and valves in there, which will cause clutches to slip and burn and cause a failure ultimately in the end. But if you keep them cleaned and flushed, that is a good thing. both front and rear differential fluid changes. They can get some moisture in them and lead to failure of the product, and they don't have to be changed like all the time, but at least like 75, 80,000 mile change.
Yeah, we tell people to watch those front differentials close because they can leak, and just not a lot of leak. All of a sudden, it's gone because it's not a big fluid capacity.
And when you're doing that, make sure the vent tubes are clean. Blow some air through them from the end of the tube down to make sure that air flows through there, both ways, so that the thing can vent and doesn't blow your seals out. The other thing to do, coolant flush. Coolant flush like every, probably 75,000 miles on that one with an extended life type antifreeze. We use the Peak antifreeze in our shop. Works really well. It's made specific for these vehicles. You can get they've got them specific for all vehicles, but they'll have the correct extended life silicate-free antifreeze coolant for this vehicle. And while you're flushing it, it's a great time because you're draining it anyways to put a thermostat in it. And we use the motor rads because they'll hold the temperature steady instead of fluctuating up and down. And the heaters on those aren't they're fair, but the better you can keep it, at 1 temp, the better off you are. So, other than that, let me see a nice free one for you. Pull the cover off the top between where the top of the radiator is, that plastic cover, pull it off and get yourself a garden hose. And make sure you rinse out between the radiator and the AC condenser because that area is prone to plug up with dust and dirt, and it'll cause things to overheat. Even your transmission oil cooler will get hot. The engine oil will get hot because you got those cooler lines coming up there, and you got a cooler built into the radiator. The radiator may not overheat, but it'll run all those other things hotter. Even the air conditioner will run hotter, and that can lead to failure in the future earlier. So you want to just wash it out. Don't spray it hard with a nozzle. Just put your thumb over the end of it and rinse it out good. And do that, at least once a year is a good rule of thumb. And keep that clean.
On that transmission, and we've talked about this before, that's a pretty solid old 4L60 in there. But if you happen to look at it and the fluid's already pretty gross, you can smell a little burnt to it and that sort of thing, then just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Then just drive it like it is. But if it looks like it's been maintained and you just keep that up.
Yeah. Otherwise,
the Carfax report on this vehicle is pages long. I mean, it was owned by a GM employee at one point, and I think everything in between is like what you've been talking about has at least been done once, if not twice.
That's awesome.
I would hope, and it runs great. I just want to keep it running. Like I said, the original motor and everything. These are really good. Really good advice points.
We got to break off for the show here, but
you guys got for me?
Yeah, we got to break off for the show, but that's awesome and keep running. It's not going to run forever, but boy, you can keep it going a mighty long time.
All right, thanks for the call, Greg.
Oh yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, take care. Bye. This has been another episode of the Under the Hood Show, brought to you by Sturdivants.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
You can give us a call at 866-594-4150 and get on the phone with us, and we'll help you out with your car questions. We're actually going to jump right in, and we're going to talk to Raymond in Mississippi, who has a 2008 Nissan Quest. Hello, Raymond.
Hello, sir.
What's up with that Nissan Quest?
Well, about 2 years ago, my cruise quit working.
Okay.
And sometimes when I mash the on and off switch on the steering wheel, sometimes it won't do nothing. If I keep pushing on it, it'll come on, but the set light starts blinking, and the cruise won't set. Now, sometimes when I'm driving down the road and I hit the button, it comes right on, but the set light starts blinking. The cruise won't work. And I've noticed several times when I turn the steering wheel and hold the button, it'll come on. That happened twice, and it worked, but it's never worked. It's never worked ever again. And I was wondering if maybe it might be the clock spring or the switch, or y'all know something else it might be.
Sounds to me like it has something going on with that clock spring in there, and if you've got to replace that, that's the time to replace the switches as well, because you got to pull them out in order to get the nut off the steering wheel to pop that loose.
Yeah, some of them we get fortunate and the switches will pop out the front without having to take that all apart. But I think that one, they got to be unbolted from the backside or unscrewed from the backside.
Yeah, and as many as those Nissan Quests that we've seen in the Mercury Villager that had that issue with the cruise on them like that, we've seen them where the horn quits working, and if you hold the button down and you move the wheel back and forth, it'll honk as you're moving it, which is a good indication that clock spring's broken as well, or the airbag light comes on. They did have a recall on those years ago, like a very long time ago, over a decade ago, for that clock spring.
I doubt that recall's still active.
You know, if it's for the airbag and it hasn't been done,
if it was a safety, you might check.
It would still be.
That'd be crazy if after this many years he could still get that done.
Yeah, because those are safety ones are supposed to last forever, or until they get to a certain age and they run out of parts and they can't provide the parts anymore. But there's still a couple ones we know about on some of the GM cars that are still active after all these years, and I think in some cases they just buy them back for like nothing, or give you a certificate as you turn your car and you get a certificate for basically nothing, because it's remember the fuel tank recall on those Chevy trucks? Oh, we'll give you. Well, I think I got a certificate for $200 towards buying a brand new truck if I wanted to buy one. No, that wasn't much, but yeah, I would say more than likely that's what it is, because if it sees that it turns on but it doesn't have continuity in those switches, what's going to happen is it's going to set a code in there, and a blinking light for the cruise means a code. It's like a flashing check engine light. So it's going to blink at you and tell you something's going on.
So my OBD tester does not pick up a code for the cruise.
It won't.
All it does, the only code I got is a small evap leak.
Yep. That's only reading the engine. It won't read the cruise on that portion of that vehicle. You'd need a Nissan scanner to read that data that's in there.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, the OBD2 scanners won't scan that on this model vehicle. Some of the newer ones they will, but on this one, it's still out of the regular OBD system. That help you out a little bit?
Sure it is, sir. I've been mechanicing since 1970.
All right.
But I got out of it when they went to all this electronic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I got out of it, and so I'm kind of blind on this new stuff, and I just want to make sure that there wasn't a trend going on with these clock springs before I replaced it.
Yeah, we've had a number of them over the years we've had to replace for this. So,
well, and just as you look at the electronic side of it, I'm no expert by any means, but with your previous knowledge, you were always willing to dig into things. This isn't any different. You just gotta get a few new ideas and dig in again. You're not gonna launch this thing into space if you do something wrong. You just gotta take a chance and figure it out, because you're a smart guy, because you've done this stuff previous. You get a lot of people we talk to, they get a little bit intimidated by the way cars have changed, but the reality is they've been electronic like this since the early 80s. They started doing systems like this, and so
yeah, but a lot of times they'll put something in there that you're not familiar with. that has something in there that you need knowledge to know what's going on.
Exactly, and that's where you can listen to shows like this and go get on YouTube, and you can get up to speed and learn more, and then it's a new frontier for you. You can have some fun with it. So I'm glad you're listening to the show, and hopefully we can help you out there. Thanks for listening.
All right, one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
My backup lights doesn't work. Will that have anything to do with a cruise?
Your backup lights could be part of the reason. No, not the backup lights. No, I was thinking of something else.
They shouldn't, unless you're not getting a good ground back there, or you're getting some kind of feedback between the backup lights and if they're not working properly, you could have a problem back there, because if there's any voltage at all, you could put a multimeter on your brake wire, the one that's feeding from your brake pedal switch back to those lights, set it on the lowest setting, and without the brakes on, see if there's any voltage there, because if there's like a half a volt there and it's feeding back some current, their cruise won't operate.
That could be the reason your cruise isn't working.
Also, if the third brake light...
Not my reverse lights, not my backup.
Yeah, I know, but that could be an indication there might be a
short in the tail,
stray voltage or something in that harness.
Because either side, we've seen shorts in there before that feed back over the brake wire. Also, look at your high mount third brake light that's up high there on the gate. If that light does not operate, the cruise will not operate. So if that bulb burns out, you've got to fix it, because the cruise will stop working. It's a safety thing they use for the interlock on the cruise for the brake switch.
Thank y'all very much.
You bet. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Have a good day.
It's funny, Shannon, that we see that so often with the cruise controls that don't work, and it turns out to be the brake light in the back. It's like, did you check your brake light? And they go, what does that have to do with it? It's like, well, check it, because we don't want you to have to come all the way in and pay us to put a bulb in for you when you could take the two screws out and do it yourself. And then people are like, I can't believe it. It fixed it. Actually, yesterday in the shop, we had a car come in and the headlights wouldn't work. Turned out that both of them were burnt out.
Both bulbs were burned out.
And we've seen that plenty on the rear too. And how does that happen? Well, one bulb burns out. You may not notice it, and you're driving around, and then one morning you turn the lights on, and you're at night, and hey, my lights aren't working.
Bulb number 2 is gone now.
Yeah, if you're not up against a building where you can see those lights and tell that one's out, or outside of the car when the car is running, you may not see that those light, that you've got a light out. So that's it. It happens. Just, it's good every now and then, once a month or so, walk around the car with all the lights on, make sure that everything works. So we're going to take a quick break. The End of the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. Welcome back to the End of the Hood Show, 866-594-4150. You can get on the air with us, talk to Shannon and myself, and if you're lucky, Chris next week, if he decides to grace us with his presence. Come on, Chris, get better and get
rally
back
time.
Here. Yeah. We're going to jump back into the phones, and we're going to talk to Carl in West Virginia with a 2006 Ram. Hello, Carl.
Hello, how you doing, sir?
Very good. How is your Ram?
Oh, it's no truck. I put about 100,000 miles on myself. It's a good old truck. It keeps wanting to get hot, so I replaced the thermostat twice. It's not leaking nowhere from around the motor. Could the water pump be bad and not leak out? Is what I'm asking.
The water pump impeller could erode if it has not, if the coolant's never been changed in it, and you get electrolysis buildup in there for some reason. Yeah, the impeller could start to wear off, but
that's not as likely.
That is super unlikely, because what's going to happen is, first you're going to notice you don't have a lot of heat where you're at. It does get cold, but not as cold as like here. But you would notice if it's enough to make the engine hot, it's enough to make the heater not work as well, especially at idle. If you try to turn the heat on and you're at idle, it's not going to heat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not putting out no heat. I've changed out two different thermostats.
Bingo. There you go. So, could be the water pump, but it could also be a head gasket issue. I would say in our shop, or let's just say at my home in my driveway, if I want to do this, if I want to be affordable like you're trying to do, I would get myself what they call a combustion gas tester. Those, they're pretty much all the same because they all use the same fluid. Amazon's fine for that. Usually we won't recommend them for anything because there's a lot of just stuff we don't, it's cheap. But get yourself a combustion gas checker. I bet you could get one for $25-$30, and you could use it for pretty much anything from here on out that has coolant and that's gas powered. They make a gas fluid and a diesel fluid. So it's going to draw gases out of that radiator where the cap is into a clear plastic tube. And if it changes from blue to yellow, you've got a head gasket leak or something major going on in that engine. So that's a cheap fix, a lot easier than I'd rather spend $25 than pulling a water pump off, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So if it doesn't change colors, we're good. At that point, I'm going to pull that pump off and inspect it and see what's going on. And if I find that the pump impeller is bad, worn out, that means we had electrolysis that ate that pump up. So I'm going to want to put the new pump on it, put a new thermostat in it. Motor Ad's the one we'd use. I'd use peak antifreeze in there so you get the correct kind for that truck. But while you're doing that, pull the heater hoses off, flush both the holes out on that heater core with your garden hose. Just spray it in full force, both sides, both directions to wash it out. Put it all back together and see what you have.
And you might already have, if this ends up being the case, you might have a heater core that is plugged up.
I've put a number of them in.
Yeah,
I like to do those. I do them myself at the shop, and I enjoy doing them. And you can do that at home in your driveway. It's going to take you a while.
That's just a job, pulling the dash and all, correct?
Yep. Yeah, you drop the dash out and pull the box out and swap it out. You do have to have the air conditioning discharge. So if you're going to do it yourself, you take it to a shop, you have them pull the refrigerant out of it, then you do the job, then you go back to the shop and have them put the refrigerant back in. But with what you're saying about no heat and overheating, I'm very concerned that the coolant is not circulating. If the radiator was clogged and the heater core was clogged, well, it would still, you're still moving coolant,
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, if it's getting hot, that's probably what's going on. Does that help you out?
Yeah, a little bit. It just reassures what I was thinking. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, we hope to give you a little confidence and back you up that you could be leaning that way.
Yeah, look at get a heat gun out and see if you're dropping temperature across the radiator too. Just see if that's happening.
Yep.
Just make
heat gun's a tool that everybody should have. Chris likes his.
Yes, he does.
Along with his dead blow hammer. All right. Take care, Carl.
All right. Thank you all. Y'all have a good day.
You too. See ya. All right. We're going to jump right over and we're going to talk to Roger in Texas. Hello, Roger in Texas with a 2007 Maxima.
Well, I'm actually in Oklahoma. I just have a Texas number.
All right.
All right.
Oklahoma.
We're close, but I know it's different.
They're close depending on which way the wind's blowing, where you're at.
How can we help you with your Maxima?
So, my issue with it is the timing chain guides went out on it.
Okay.
So, I took it into a shop and had everything, the timing chain, sprockets, everything replaced. And afterwards, it did fine. It had an oil leak or two, so I took it back and they fixed it and everything. And about the third time I took it back, well, we don't want to see this vehicle again. Well, the timing chain guides went out again. And I can't get anybody, I couldn't get them to return my call or anything because I guess they really didn't want to see the vehicle again. But anyway, what I need to know is, from what I've seen, that it was a common problem with the 07 Maxima. My question is it worth trying to spend the money to have somebody replace the timing chain guides again? And nobody seems to know what causes them to go out so quick.
Well, that kind of car, if it's a typical Oklahoma car and in pretty good shape, yeah, it'd be worth putting chains in. That's really one of the big things that fails in these cars that cause the engine to go bad. But if it's still running okay, but those guides are worn out, I don't see a lot of repeat failures in our shop, in our area.
No, not.
It could be that there's something wrong with the product that was used on it. You might try a genuine Nissan chain and guides on that. Sometimes they're not as expensive as you think compared to an aftermarket part. You just got to, we do the research on all that when we're putting something in to find out and see if there's any bulletins as you're putting them in for an update. But they shouldn't fail a second time, especially that fast.
Is this a situation where you're hearing noise, or is it not running right, or did the chain get so loose that it jumped? Where are you at with it?
It's doing the work on it myself. That's way above my pay grade, but it's making the original noise it did when you started up. It's a loud rattle.
Oh yeah,
and it's the same sound as the timing chain guide the first time that it was fixed. But I just don't see them going out in a month or two after they're put in.
It's probably not the guide then. It's probably not a repeat failure of the guide. It's probably a tensioner that's out. So when you start the car, it kind of goes and rattles and then quits and then it's done, right? It's quiet after that.
No, it keeps rattling.
Oh, it does. And it could be the tensioner. It might be stuck. You know, that thing runs on hydraulic pressure, and it might be that the tensioner has just failed. So what's going to happen is if it's inside the engine, they're going to have to tear it apart, inspect it, and if the guides are good, then they'll have to put a tensioner in it. They'll check the chains and everything, but they'll be able to see what's loose.
How many miles are on this Maxima?
How many miles is on it? Yeah, that's what I was thinking, about 160,000.
That's not terrible on this engine.
One thing you may consider, if you find that this is a problem that, okay, this is getting ugly, last I checked on one of these, there was motors out there on Cardash Part, one of our partners where the industry kind of lists their items they have for sale out of cars they've dismantled, and you might be able to get an entire engine for quite a bit less than the repair, or
they're getting affordable
for opening it up. It might be something to check into. But if you got all them new parts in there and they used a quality product and maybe one of them parts failed, I know that shop doesn't want to talk to you again. That they might have a manufacturer warranty if they used a good quality part that has a warranty behind it. Because a lot of shops have gotten into their suppliers that they work with on a regular basis offer some sort of a warranty for the repair if something breaks or doesn't go right. Now, not all of them do that. If you buy the cheapest part that can be put in there, and it's coming off of a website or something that is overseas, and you buy it, you're kind of on your own when things don't work. But when you go through a reputable parts distributor, and they'll a lot of times have some coverage. It just all depends on what is purchased, I guess.
Does that help you out, Roger?
Do you know if a Quest and a Nissan Maxima, do they have the same engine or not?
There are a number of those Nissans that use the same base engine. They may have some different accessories on them, the way that the intake comes in or the way the throttle valve hooks up. But there are a lot of them that have that same. I wish I could say the engine code right now because I've kind of always been fond of some of those Nissans, but it's a very similar engine in a lot of those.
Yep.
Because I thought about taking the engine out of my Quest and putting it in there. I don't know if it would work or not.
You could call a local auto recycling facility that has an interchange system and just bother them for just a little bit and see if that engine falls into the same base category of interchange. It could be a different letter in our interchange where it's a whatever number with an A, B, C, or D, and that doesn't mean it won't work. It just means that you've got quite a bit of stuff to change. And I know like Russ and his team at the shop, most of the time when they're changing an engine, they're switching all that stuff anyway because we want to put all the external accessories that came from the original vehicle onto the other engine, kind of like a heart transplant. And so sometimes it's just bolt-on things that you have to change to make it work. An oil pan could be different because of the way that it sits in the chassis, and you have to have a different oil pan sometimes, but it could be the same long block and heads and crank and everything set up as the other engine. That's very common.
I need to look into that.
Yeah, bet. Thanks for calling the show. We hopefully get you figured out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But take care. Yeah, and that's a hard decision when you've got something going on with the car. Is it time to do you put an engine in it? Do you put a transmission in it? Do you sell it for a few $100 or so if it as is and take your loss, or do you fix it? You've got to look and see. Think of it like as a stock investment or something. It's like, all right, if I put this amount of dollars in, how many dollars can I get out? If I put $100 in, can I double my money? If I put $1,000 in, can I double my money? if I put 5,000 or 10,000 in, can I get more out of it than when I put into it? And that's the key, because it may sound like a ton of money, but if you got a $600 car that needs $10,000 of repair, but with the $10,000 of repair, it's worth 16 or 17,000 bucks, tells me that would be the right investment rather than just throwing it away and losing all that and spending money. Because if you spend money for another one, your money is definitely going out of the door. There's no way around that, if, ands, or but. It's just going to
got to do a lot of analysis.
We'll be back in just a moment. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. This is the Under the Hood Show, and we appreciate your calls. Thanks for calling. We're going to jump right back into the phones, and we're going to talk to Charlie. Charlie has a 2011 Cadillac SRX. Hello, Charlie.
Hello. Thanks for taking my call.
You're very welcome. What can we do for you on the SRX?
Well, the vehicle has a backup camera. It failed last January during the cold, frigid weather, and again this January it failed again during the cold, frigid weather. So I don't know if there's a connection or it's just an unreliable device.
Did you replace it last time, or did it just stop
Yeah.
working? Yeah, okay, so you replaced the camera.
I replaced it.
Put a brand new.
And before it fails, it starts to work intermittently, and then all of a sudden it eventually doesn't work at all. And
Yeah.
I'm guessing this is a kind of a typical problem.
Yeah, we've had that problem with the Cadillac SRX and also the Ford Edge. They're both very prone to problems with the cameras on them. We've had to replace them, and there's different grades of cameras. They do make some really cheap ones, and they've got some better ones. But we've done a number of them. So if it doesn't surprise me when somebody says, "Hey, I had a camera replaced before and it's failed again. What should I do?" And it's like, well, get another camera unless that one has a warranty on them. Some of them have a lifetime warranty. Some of them have a 2-year warranty. Some of them have a 1-year warranty. You just got to find out what yours had and go from there.
I got to adventure into a question here a little bit, Russ. If the backup cameras, the high brake lights, all this stuff was mandated for federal safety standards.
Sure.
So if your backup camera fails, do they look at that as a safety recall ever?
If enough people would get online and file a complaint about it, yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. You've got to file. They don't know that they're failing until there's a complaint about it, or they see, enough news stories about the exact same thing. That would do it too. But if enough people file complaints, that's how they get the recalls done. And all of a sudden, if the, National Highway Transportation Safety Administration says, wow, we've had 5,000 people complain about backup cameras not working, saying they don't feel safe anymore because they can't see.
Well, we've
behind
gotten
them.
so dependent on them. I mean, the vehicles I have with backup cameras, I've kind of gotten dependent on them.
It's a good to have. For me, I look in the mirror and I turn my head and I look back there, and then I listen for the beep.
I think I say listen for the crash.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'll look at the camera now and then, especially in the dark where you can see in the dark with these new cameras. But if that thing's beeping at me, telling me something's close, I'm going to look at the camera a little closer. But most of the time, I want to have my eyes around looking to see what's going on. But
that's what I mean. It's became part of my routine as I back up.
Yeah, it's good to have the collision avoidance back there. But yeah, I think your camera's just gone, Charlie.
Yeah. Once you get used to a backup camera, you kind of miss it when it's out of service.
Yep. You need that.
At least I do.
For sure.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
All right. Thanks for the call, Charlie.
Okay, these cameras that you're talking about, they're all OEM cameras, basically?
No,
factory?
Tons of aftermarket ones
talking
out
about
there.
aftermarket?
Yeah.
You're talking about it might be a cheap aftermarket camera.
Exactly.
That may not be
Yeah, the
less
factory ones are pretty good, but the aftermarket ones, some of them are better than others. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll have to replace it again. I don't think I'm going to get any support from the dealer, though.
You can double check. It never hurts to double check what the warranty was on it and what this, most of the OEM parts that you buy across the parts counter from a dealer or from the dealer network typically come with a 1-year parts warranty. So you might check on that and see what the situation is.
Okay.
And it's always worth bouncing on the internet to see if there is something out there about this where there's a campaign.
And a lot of those GMs, the AC Delco are 2 years, so it's good to check.
Yeah, I did an internet search, and it seemed like there was a lot of car models and manufacturers that had similar problems.
Yep.
You can go to, it used to be recalls.gov and go there, and you can, a lot of cases put in your VIN number and see if there's open recalls on your vehicle. That's somewhere you can check and just see if maybe there is something out there. We always encourage people to do that just to see what might be going on with your car.
All right, thanks,
Do you
Charlie.
think the cold weather could have been an issue?
No.
Cold weather?
No, just
or humidity or
just normal failure in that. It should be, that thing's made to operate from 20 below zero to 120 above.
There is no doubt that the environmental stress can be part of a failure of anything.
Yeah, but nothing that it shouldn't have been able to handle.
Right. Okay.
All right, take care, Charlie. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to jump right back in, and we're going to talk to Brad with a 1992 Toyota Camry. Hello, Brad.
Hey, guys. Love your show.
Thank you.
Just had a question on that Camry. So when it's cold, not, just the engine being cold, and I start up and put it in drive, it kind of makes a slight grinding noise. Didn't know if maybe that was a converter or something. And so when you put it back in neutral, it stops, and it's just basically in drive. And then when it warms up, when the engine warms up, you can't hear that. It doesn't do it.
I wonder if it's not maybe an exhaust rattle inside, like a catalytic converter rattle, which sounds like it's coming from the transmission, like a buzzing, grinding kind of sound. Does it, if you give it some gas, it go away?
It sounds more like a grinding, like it's up in the engine somewhere, or
sure.
I don't know. Now I did like a year or so ago. I had a shop. I had an oil leak on the engine, and they had to take the pan off, and they found some filings in there.
For the tranny pan they did, for the transmission pan they did?
No, the oil pan, the engine oil
pan. Yeah,
there's some filings in there. I don't know what that was from. Everything was fine. The bearings are good and everything, but
it's possible that if it was the engine and it does it in drive but not in neutral, it should do it in drive and reverse as well as neutral. But if it does it in a gear position,
yeah, I think it does in reverse too.
It might be not so much the transmission. It could be like a timing chain guide or something, or a tensioner that's a little worn, and as it's warming up, that goes away. So that might be something to check too. If somebody gets under the hood while you're putting it in gear and out of gear and listening, they might be able to isolate where that's coming from. If it's a timing chain area on a 92 Camry, you could put a chain in it and guides and everything and keep it going a little longer, but it is getting some age on it. You might think about doing something different, whatever that is.
How many miles are on the Camry, Brad?
Oh, I believe it's got, I think it's 200,000 something.
Okay,
so, yeah, it's got some miles on it.
At 200,000, if you're going to keep that car, I would be looking at a certified used engine instead of just trying to repair something in that one, because you got to pull it. You need to pull it out anyways.
4-cylinder V6.
Yeah, okay. The 4-cylinder.
Yeah, it's amazing on those. We were just talking about this the other day on one of our industry trade calls, trying to look up a Camry motor for something, and it's just amazing how well those cars hold their value for the parts, because people keep fixing the cars. If the body's in good shape and it's not rusted, people keep fixing them because they're good driving cars that get good fuel economy and typically pretty dependable. But before you get too far down that road, I think I'd go back to where Russ started and just really get a 2-person team, kind of listen to this thing when it starts up and trying to isolate where that's coming from. And don't rule out a motor mount went bad and it's causing something to vibrate when it first starts. Exhaust noises that can fool you that are coming from a flex pipe or some sort of an exhaust pipe that comes up to the engine. That we see some of that stuff on startup, and then as it warms up, things expand and they seem to go away. So don't rule that out.
Does that help you out?
It doesn't sound like that. It sounds like more like a metal grinding in there. But,
yeah, and that could be coming from a transmission type issue in the torque converter or something. But that would be.
And it may drive for a long time.
Yeah, it might go that way for a long time like that. So you really just need to kind of isolate where it's coming from. Of course, you want to do that, but that's what you need to do.
All right.
And so as far as fixing that, I mean, that's a pretty extensive. If it's
depending on what it is,
we got to identify what that is, and we try our darndest to figure that stuff out, but without standing beside it, it's just kind of hard to say.
The exhaust leak could be super easy, or it could get a little expensive, but time and change guides that can get a little more. Transmission repair could get more, but don't rule out the simple things first. It could be something simple.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it, guys.
You bet. Take care, Brad. All right, we're going to jump right over to Ray and talk to Ray about his 2017 Outback. Hello, Ray.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good. What's up with the
Love
Outback?
The show. You're doing a great service for free, and that's
Thank
not
you.
heard of much anymore. I had a rear wheel bearing go out.
Okay.
So put a puller on there, tried to pull it out. Well, it separated the center of the bearing.
Sure.
Because they're South Dakota salty roads. It just kind of rusted up and tightened up in there. So probably did the wrong thing. Had to take a torch and heat it and get it out of there, cut it out of there more or less.
Yep.
And now all my sensor lights, ABS, eyesight, sensor, everything's going crazy. Do you think I overheated the ABS sensors in the hub there area?
I do. Okay. We just replaced one of these yesterday, so I'm familiar with how that those things can happen. So we had to be really careful with that. But sometimes you can't get the sensor out of there easily before you start to heat it. So sometimes it's just got to be replaced. But I would start with that. If you got a scanner, you could read it and see if it has a code for that. But I'll almost bet if it worked before and it doesn't now, it's time for you're going to have to put a sensor in it. Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
I know there's some people that don't have the full kit to pull those bearings and stuff like that. And there's enough Subarus out there that have been dismantled around the country. Sometimes you can go to Car Dash Part and you can just find a complete rear stub. I think is what they call it.
The whole knuckle back there.
And you get the knuckle with the bearing and everything off a car, say with 50,000 miles on it or something, and just replace everything if you don't have those parts or those tools to do that job. That's we've seen a lot of people do that.
And when you buy it, tell them you want one with a intact sensor wire. Don't accept one with a cut wire. I mean, that's what you ask for.
Okay. Well, that probably would have been a lot simpler than the route I took.
Well, and you're starting
to did both rear bearings.
You're starting to see a lot more of the manufacturers also of parts like Dorman and others that are offering a complete
Dorman sells a loaded knuckle for a lot of cars.
Assembly to put on. Now, I don't see as many on the rear on the part catalog that's available, but if they are popular and they see a lot of failure, companies like that are looking to make something that you can bolt together in your garage without having to have special tools, and that's how they do it.
All right. Thanks, Ray.
I appreciate it.
You bet.
Guys.
Take care. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the End of the Hood show, and we'll be right back in just a moment. 866-594-4150. The End of the Hood show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. Welcome back to the Under the Hood show. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. 866-594-4150. We'll get you on the air. We're going to go to New Orleans. We're going to talk to Daniel with a 2024 Subaru Outback. Hello. How you doing?
Hey, gentlemen. How are y'all doing today?
Not bad. Not bad. So you got a brand new Subaru Outback. How you like it?
That is correct. I love everything about it. We now live in East Texas. We moved from New Orleans, and a lot more ice than I'm used to. So
Where did you?
We wanted something all-wheel drive.
Where did you move to in East Texas, where the ice is?
Almost North Texas, 30 miles north of Tyler.
Okay, I was from Longview, so not too far from that. About 60 miles to your southwest there, but you will get some ice there now and then.
Sir.
That's for sure.
Yeah, it was a big surprise when we've been there 2 years now, and every year we've gotten quite a bit. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? This is not what I'm used to.
Yeah, that's not. Well, I don't know. The climate, it goes up and down. We don't really know what's going to happen. But 30 years ago, that wasn't a norm there. But it would happen every now and then. But yeah, I've watched the last few years. Friends of mine send me videos of several inches of snow on the ground at times. It comes and goes. It's been crazy. And then it'll be, it might be 75 like it was a couple days ago. And then a week before that, you've got snow coming down. It's odd. So what's up with what do you got questions on the Subaru about?
So, we got the car. It's for my wife. She drives it every day. Now, my question is, we got the turbocharged 4-cylinder in it. And
yep.
I was reading about just, it makes a lot of boost. I'm worried about octane. Because, my Mustang has, knock sensors, and I was like, man, I don't know if I should be putting really good fuel in it or just the 87 cheap stuff.
Do not put the 87 cheap stuff in it.
Don't do that.
What is I am curious because I just don't know. Maybe Russ knows, but what is the manufacturer's recommendation when you look at the fuel cap or in the owner's manual? What did they say required or recommend any certain octane on that car?
I don't think so. I think they had told us to put regular 87 in it, and I was like, I'm not smart, man, but 14 pounds of boost, that makes me nervous.
Well, they engineer those motors to be as pump friendly as they can because they don't want their consumer to be have to hunting around for fuel all over the place. But we have learned from experience that most of these, I'm going to call them little turbo engines that are in cars.
There's a lot of them.
They do much better over time if you can run and give them just a little bit more octane, whether it's the 89, if it's like a 10% ethanol blend or a 15% ethanol blend, or if it's, if the prices have been down low enough lately where the 91 is going to be a good fuel for that car. But it just helps. The computer mapping will be happier. It doesn't have to make as much adjustments for detonation. If it doesn't have enough octane, it's just going to like it more.
Our personal opinion is that engine should last longer overall. When you're talking about if you're driving it for 20 years or something, I think it's going to last longer and have less problems, less carbon buildup and all that if you're running a better octane in it.
I'll put some realism to it for you because real life does move on. But even I've got a truck that it's 91 octane is required or recommended on there, and sometimes I've gotten into a situation just where I'm at. Either the premium fuel is so stupid expensive, or they didn't have it where I needed to go, and I ran myself just about out of fuel, and I had to get gas. I'll put the 87 in there, and I'll drive it because I know I'm just going to be doing a bunch of highway driving. But I can tell when I accelerate in that particular vehicle, I can actually hear detonation. It's just the way that motor. It's a 6.2 liter. I can hear it, and so I wouldn't want to do that for very long, but I did it for a tank full, and then I get back, and as soon as I can, I get the right fuel in it, or I blend it in at quarter tank or whatever it might happen to be. That's going to happen, and you're going to have variances in the fuel just by the way the fuel delivery systems of the world are out there and in that sort of thing. But I would be looking for at least an 89 most of the time. Is that where you'd be at, Russ?
Yeah, that's what I'd do. And I would, since there's Buc-ee's down there, I would be filling up like at 3/4 of a tank every time. So I'd have an excuse to go to Buc-ee's more. You'd keep your tank full too, Shannon, if you had a Buc-ee's near you.
You think I would?
I bet you would.
I'd probably weigh another 30 pounds too.
You would. It'd be beaver nuggets. Yep. There you go.
Yes. Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the information. I appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you. Call anytime.
Do dig out your manual and just look at what their recommendation is. The salesmen there's some of these salesmen that are in the used car stuff or the new car stuff. They are totally tuned in with their product, and they'll give you the perfect information exactly as it is in the manual. And there's other ones that'll just tell you what they want to say to keep you buying the car. So you got to make sure you get the information yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. You guys have a great day. Thanks again for what you do.
You too. Appreciate it. Take care. All right, we're going to jump over and talk to Tom with a 2009 Honda Pilot. Hello, Tom.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Oh, perfect. Hey, love your show. I've been listening to the podcast for quite a few months now. And
Thank you.
Annoying my wife all the time, but, I love it.
Hello, wife.
No, she's not here with me, but I'll annoy her anyway.
She might hear it.
So, Yeah, she'll eventually hear it. I'll play it for her. So I have a 2009 Pilot, had it since 2012, bought it with about 30K on its second owner, put a lot of miles on it, has 187,000 on it. Did the timing chain, the whole package back at 110, I think it was, along with the spark plugs. Lately, I've been hearing this light ticking sound under load when the engine is warm. Okay, it sounds like it's coming from the top end.
Oh no, we just lost Tom.
We did, and I think we've got enough information to help him, though.
Yeah.
Maybe, but it's light. He's got light ticking. He's starting to hear his 170,000 mile Honda Pilot 3.5 liter. It's been a good vehicle. He's the second owner, and I'm going to talk long enough. Hopefully, he gets a chance to tune back in and hear the end of it. But that's gotten new enough where there's not any more adjustment, right, Russ? Or is that still adjustable?
Yeah. The top end of that. The top end of that vehicle, we've got Tom back now, but the top end of that.
Guys, sorry about that.
Yeah, we're good. So we didn't give anything that you would need right yet. But so the top end of that noise you have, valves do need to be adjusted on those engines. That's important. Okay. So I would adjust the valves, but I would also look for any kind of leaks you might have in the exhaust system on that, because that's kind of common as well. We've had the manifolds leak right where they bolt to the heads and make a little ticking sound up on the top of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure you heard me before it cut off, but I had it to the mechanic and he replaced the Y pipe.
Yep.
Coming down, and he showed it to me. It had a bunch of pinholes in it.
Sure.
He did replace that, but I'm still hearing some noise.
If that had pinholes in it, then it's likely there are some others that are going to pop up in the manifolds as well. So it might be some additional work that's needed. So
he apparently thought it was an exost leak if he went down that road.
I would have him take another peek at it, but definitely the exhausts are a huge problem on those. So I mean, we've done a lot of them in our shop. So I would go there. Does that help you out? Give you a little.
Up towards the manifolds more to be looking
correct.
For the exhaust leaks.
Yep, and do those. Make sure you adjust those valves.
Now, an out of adjustment valve, would it cause a ticking sound? Would that be a symptom?
Yes, it can cause ticking noises if they've got too much clearance. You bet.
A pretty consistent ticking noise that would move with RPM.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't tick at idle. That's what's confusing me. Right.
That does sound more exhaust leak.
Yeah, it sounds more like exhaust.
So he's leaning that way already, so it does sound more that way. Okay. So wouldn't get too worried about it, but just have him check those intervals on the adjustments on that engine.
All right.
Thanks, Tom.
Guys, I really appreciate it. Love your show.
You bet. Thanks for calling us.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Take care. Yeah, always lean towards the stuff that's cheaper if you can. If you're lucky, it'll be something. It'll be something cheaper. But you just never know. Never know. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Under the Hood Show. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see an after show coming up here, so stick around. Until next week, for Chris Carter, who's not here, I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom, and we'll see you under the hood. All right, we're back. That was fast. See how fast we were? We're going to jump right in on the after show here. We're going to talk to Dale with a 2003 Chevy pickup. Hello, Dale.
Hi. I've got a question about the pickup, and actually I've got a question about my older Chevy Impala too.
Sure.
But on the pickup, I had a flat tire a couple days ago, and so I was taking the tire off, and the spare is underneath in that carrier thing, that you stick through the bumper and crank it down.
Yes.
Well, it cranks down for about 4 inches, and then all it does is go click, click, click.
Okay. Well, that's common.
Obviously, I can cut that dog bone thing off the bottom to get the tire out, but is there some kind of repair on whatever that gearbox in there?
Yes and no. What happens is you get corrosion buildup in there just from the road salt or water, dirt, all that happens. So if you get a can of PB Blaster with the straw on the end of it, and it's got that Pro Straw, so you can open it wide open and turn it down enough that you can spray just a steady stream and kind of aim it like you're spraying it inside of a
like it's a garden hose instead of a mist.
Yeah, and like you're spraying a beehive, and you want to get the entrance so that you're not getting you don't want any wasps jumping out at your bees. So, not that I've done that. And spray into there are going to be some holes in the corners of that unit where they fold the corners together on the top. Spray it in there and just soak that thing, and let it sit about an hour, and then try to work that thing up and down. Lower it down a little bit, raise it up, and then soak it down again and let it sit another hour. And then
can I see this thing?
Yeah, just if your tire's down far enough, you can get at it. Sometimes it doesn't drop far enough to even get at it.
Okay, that's what I mean. Yeah, the tire doesn't come down very dang far.
You might be able to look through the
I don't know
holes.
if I can even see.
Yeah, look through the hole in the wheel. You should be able to see it because we've done this with the PB Blaster
Put some
in our
safety
shop.
glasses on so you don't get tripped on.
And try to get it down. Now, if all else fails and you can't get this to work, can't get it down, yes, put a jack under the tire, cut off that end of it, remove the tire, and then if you go over to AutoZone, you'll be able to pick up, it should be in stock, a tire carrier hoist is what they call it. Dorman Products sells them, and AutoZone carries them, and it's a bolt-on. You'll have one bolt on the end that you take out, and this thing will drop off. You recycle it in the metal scrap, and then you slip the one corner in, put the one bolt back in, and you got a brand new carrier. You won't have to work on it anymore. But we still do suggest that as you own this thing, lower it down.
See if I can rehabilitate what I've got.
Yeah, I mean, you could try that, but the new ones aren't that much. But if you own it, and let's say you drive it another year, at least lower this thing down once a year, all the way down, all the way up, so you keep it moving, because it's the lack of movement that causes the problem.
That's understandable. Okay, the company that makes them is Dorman.
Yeah, you can go directly to their website, but like I said, AutoZone is a distributor and seller of Dorman products, and that's a common item that breaks, at least in our part of the world, and they typically stock it. And we used to sell it. We used to sell a ton of those.
What?
A tire hoist, spare tire hoist.
Tire hoist. Oh, well.
Yep.
I was just going to say we used to sell a ton of those at our recycling yard here, used. And sometimes we get them off vehicles that were virtually brand new and they'd get wrecked, and so they were a great product. But a lot of the ones we had used, we had the same problem in the shop. We couldn't get them lowered, so we ended up scrapping them anyway. But what we've seen is on some of these, the price has gotten affordable enough for the Dorman replacement that we just stopped taking them off the vehicles and just tell people to buy a new one if we don't have one that's super low mileage.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with the Impala?
Can I ask you another question?
Of course.
On the back trunk lid, the surface of the trunk lid that's above the taillights and below the spoiler, there's that 4-inch wide strip that's painted. Well, chunks of paint are starting to fall off of that. It's a 2004 also, so it's old, but it's always been garaged. It was my mother's car originally, so it's less than 100,000 miles on it. But this winter now, I see some of the paint is starting to fall off of there in big chunks.
In that era of Impala, they had some paint that just didn't stay the test of time very well. You'd seen it on hoods, you saw it on trunk lids. It's just some of the panels that they painted. You're saying that you believe this is all factory paint?
Yes, I know it is.
Sure. No, that is not unusual, and it's frustrating. And on some of those cars back in the day, they had, when they were newer, they had campaigns where they'd let you come in. I don't know if it was Impalas particular, but just every once in a while, the paint shops would get some bad results in the factory, or the supplier that supplied the part that was pre-painted would have some bad results, and then they would do campaigns to try to help people improve the appearance of the car, repaint, do those sort of things. So this car is long past that, I would believe, but that is not unusual. And as long as there's no corrosion going on the panel, you can, you open it up, you look front side, back side, you don't see any corrosion yet. Find a good auto body shop and protect that, because if the car is still a nice low mileage car that you're using all the time, you don't want that to go downhill and then all of a sudden become a corrosion problem It might go that way for a long time
Yeah.
because it's not a super exposed area, shall we say, with
Right.
the way things get
Yeah,
caught on there.
and it's not really a collecting area. The stuff would more run off.
Yeah, and you
Is
can
it
clean
something
it.
I could just do myself, scuff it up a little bit, prime it, and
If you like
match
to.
paint as close as I could?
Yeah, if you like to,
Okay.
they do sell
Yeah.
touch-up paints that you can get to, like body match paints that are
Mhm.
close. And did you say it was white?
Yes.
Yeah. So colors. I know AutoZone does carry quite a few touch-up paints, and you can if you get the code off your door. It should be on the door on that down by the bottom when you open it up as part of that tag. I think nope,
No, it's
that
not.
one's not
It's-
going to be in the door. That
no,
one's going to
it's-
be in the RPO tag.
Yeah, it's on the big tag that's in the trunk over the spare tire.
Yep. Either over the spare tire in the
Oh.
trunk or in the glove box. There's a thing with a bunch of funny codes that people
And on
are
the
like,
bottom it'll say
what are those?
BCCC, which is base coat, clear coat.
Yep.
And then that's
and then
the
it'll
paint
say
code.
a upper and lower like U and L, and they might be the same. But if it's a L10 or whatever, whatever that number is, if you take that in and say, hey, I need some touch-up paint in this color, they should be able to get you a spray can of it, and then you could match it, and you might just have to decide if it's going to be different color than the rest of the trunk. Sometimes people will scuff up the whole area, primer it, and they'll do like maybe from the lip of the trunk down, so it's like one whole area that is one thing instead of making a spot. Because I've seen some of those cars go down the road and they just have a spot on the side that's a different color white. But if you can figure it out, you can
tape it
blend
off and
in.
make it look like
Yeah.
a design. You chose it that way.
Yep.
But you're saying it's below that molding. You might have that nice clean line there already where you can scuff it.
There's a line across where the trunk bends down, and it's on that downward bend.
Yes, you could do that. It depends on what you want, because you can do it to look pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And you're happy with being pretty darn good. Yeah, go ahead and do it yourself. But if you want it to look really nice, then you have to go to an auto body shop where they can.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
My rattle can wouldn't look like what they do, but
you can do pretty good though.
It would be good enough on this vehicle.
If you got a steady hand, you can do pretty good.
This was. I might have to have some nerve steadier before I try it then. This was the vehicle also that I asked you guys, the lights on the instrument panel weren't working, and it was because I had my pizza coupons on the dash.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was covering up the little sensor thing. I don't know if you remember that a couple years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. I guess I'm not a great painter, but when you get to it, I think the trick that I've been told by a lot of auto body guys, even with a rattle can, is just smooth, long strokes back and forth, and then don't overpaint. People are always tempted to want to get that color as soon as they can get it. Don't overpaint. Take it in strides.
If I just give it one more shot, well, that's when it breaks and runs.
Yeah, so
the
just
one more
don't
shot.
overpaint.
Yeah.
Or maybe take it down to the train yard. Just leave the trunk off next to a train down at the train yard some night, and then you can go pick it up the next day when it's got some cool graffiti on it. Hopefully, it's clean graffiti, but you could look at that. Some of those rattle can jobs look really good. They're really well done. So somebody can do it. All right. Thanks for the call, Dale.
Okay. Well, yeah, you bet. Thank you, guys.
You bet. Take care.
Bye.
Oh man, I don't like that. The painting's got so expensive that if you're not touching something up, if you got to do a whole panel, it's just going to be like, ouch, that's a lot of money. But what do you do? Hey, so subject of the day here: cars under $5,000. This comes up all the time, and I've got people asking us, what can you buy under $5,000? It used to be, I remember when we started this show, it was like, what can I get under $1,000?
Yeah, and then it went to 2,500 and 5,000.
I still remember Chris saying, so what? It was $500. Well, yeah, now it's $5,000, and you can actually, if you look, you can find some decent cars under $5,000. What comes to your mind when you think of a car that you could pick up for under $5,000 any year that would still be pretty good? And you got to think of listeners all over the country, because some cars would rust out here that wouldn't make it to that.
06, 7, 8 Impala, 9 Impala.
I've got that on my list. I've got 2005 to 2009 Impala.
I'd say it's 6 because you get into the new generation.
Yep. And you might even find a 10 if it's got some hail damage or something, so it's not as pretty. But the engines are very durable in these cars.
Yeah, that range from actually it goes from 06 to 14 Classic.
Yep.
In that era, that's a pretty solid car that'll run a long ways.
Yep. And if you remember, when you're picking a car, you don't have to choose the prettiest, especially if you're picking it for a kid that's just learning to drive and you want to get them into high school. Well, if they show that they can take care of the car, they take care of what they start with, maybe they get a little reward, graduate up to a better car. Maybe it is graduation, who knows? But you start with that because some of these cars we see people pick, our customers have picked nice cars or given their super nice car to the kid, and they come in and they're all beat to crap. I mean, they're horrible. We got one at our shop right now that the customer's picking up. They gave it to their kid and they just beat it to death. It's all beat and banged and bent, but it runs great. That's a Mazda CX-9, and that's one you can pick up in that range too, if you look around. But sometimes ugly can still be a great runner, and you get a better car for it. We've told people for years, pick one out with, like here at our place at the Auto Recycling Center, we sold a lot of hail damage cars, and a hail damage car that you saved $7,000 or $8,000 on might be a great thing if you want a car that's reliable to get you where you're going and much newer. So, when those things occur, it can be great. The other thing that is good if you're looking for a van, maybe you're a family and you need a van, the 2005 or so on up to 10 or 11 Chrysler Town and Country vans, those are really good as well. They make a nice vehicle for under $5,000. So you go higher miles.
7 to 14 in that range right there.
Yeah, and we've seen those go a couple 100,000 miles and still be good runners.
Now, granted, like any of these we talk about, you can have a van like that will end up with a problem with the cam on the 3.6. If it's noisy when you listen to it, probably stay away. Occasionally they flare out a transmission, but they made hundreds of thousands of these things, and as a rule, they ran a long time. We know fleets that run these things, and they run them 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles, a lot of them. So that's definitely a van to consider for a good price point.
How about, Shannon, Ford Taurus? What years are you thinking of that when you think of a Taurus?
I probably want to get past the 05, 6, 7, because that's when they kind of had some early adaptation of CVTs and stuff, and they seem to have some problems. I'd want to get, probably up into the 9, 10 if I could. I'm just trying to think that one through. I hadn't thought of that one.
Or jump back to a 03, 04 if one's still in good shape.
If you go to that previous body
Even
style.
Even 02, yeah.
Yeah, we've seen some people that have found older person traded in or sold for the family pre 05 Taurus, like a 04, 3, 2, 1. Those things were pretty bulletproof overall.
And then
that's for some domestics.
Another thing I thought of too is, a Honda Fit. If you're looking for a smaller, like a SUV, so you can carry some stuff in the back of it, fold the seats down, but still get around and decent mileage, I mean, it's not a giant SUV. It's more like a car, but there's some room in there where you can put a couple loads of laundry.
There's stuff you can haul in the back. That's and then I always tell people, if you can find from a family member or somebody that's trading or selling or getting rid of and grab it before they trade it in. But if somebody's got a higher mileage, good running Honda Accord, Toyota Camry, Toyota Corolla, Honda Civics, those cars just are typically some pretty darn good running cars. But I would watch out for, there are times we see some of them end up in shined up and glazed up used car situations that aren't as nice of cars, and they can cause you some problems. You definitely want to know a little bit of history of where it came from if you're going to get into one of those high mileage ones.
And then can't forget like a Chevy Malibu, Buick Regal, Buick Century. Those cars were all pretty good. You just on those look for price wise and search by price, and then make sure on all these used car inspection to see what they look like, because there's really even no reason where if you're looking at something older, I wouldn't be afraid of a 1998 Chevy Malibu if it ran good and passed a good inspection.
And it wasn't rusty.
Right.
And here again, we're talking about $5,000 or less.
Yes.
There's some Nissan Sentras that can come into this for the older ones. We look on our history, and Motors never went bad. Trannies never went bad. And that's some of that early Nissan Sentra stuff before 2012. Even the Maximas, when they get back a little ways, those little V6 motors, we had a call today on one where a guy was having problems with guides, but those things ran and ran and ran. Trannies got expensive when they broke, but they just seemed to keep running too.
That's for sure. But I know people are looking for, they're looking to save. They're looking to save money, and they're looking for a car at a decent price. And that's kind of our list of things we can think of, that because we see them in our shop every day. We're looking at these cars. They come through the recycling center as well, and we can kind of get a pretty good idea of what the trend is out there for what they're worth. Car lots can tell you what they're worth, but a lot of times the private buy of a good car that you've had an inspection done on, or like Shannon said, somebody is going to trade one in, put your feelers out. Tell people, hey, I'm looking for a car. I'm looking to purchase one in the next couple months here. If anybody's thinking about trading a car in, let me know, because sometimes they'll give them almost nothing, and they'd rather sell them to you at what the dealer wants to give you than taking the bath.
One word of reality. I just talked last night to after work, a friend of mine called, and I don't get a chance to talk to him very much. It seems like it just never works out when he calls me, and I'm usually so busy I just don't get a chance to chat with people as much as I would like. But he was talking about selling an older. This would have been a pre-05, pre-04 Grand Prix.
Sure.
And it wasn't completely rusted out, but it had rust. And they were trying to sell it for $1,500. And so the car ran good, worked good. He knew of a few warts that it had. It was what it was. His kid drove it up until he got a better car finally. And it would have kept driving it if he wouldn't have got that better car. So they were having a hard time selling it, and he was asking me if he wanted to bail out on it, what I'd give him for it. And I was basically telling him it would be scrap price because I don't need it. But finally they had somebody come look at it, and the guy came and looked at it, and he liked it. And then he said, I'm going to have my grandpa come over. And then Grandpa comes over, give it the used car inspection.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandpa sat there forever and ever and was just telling all the stuff wrong with the car. And finally, he my friend just said, he said to him, he goes, hey, no disrespect, you want to give me the keys? Because this is a $1,500 car. I know what's wrong with it. And it's not going to be any less than a $1,500 car.
So if these things weren't wrong with it, it'd be a $5,000 car.
Yeah, so just give me the keys back, and I'm going to go back in the house. And he said they kind of stood there like, you're not going to play the game? And he said, no. He said, so be realistic about what you have. It's just like when you buy a home and they give you a home inspection on a 75-year-old house, and they tell you that it needs this, that the electrical needs something. Yeah, if it hasn't been replaced, it does. It is what it is. And so he did end up having someone else come along that had just gotten out of incarceration. They were looking for transportation to get their life back on the ground. So cool, he said, that there was another person that was either through an organization or something that was helping them that had also been through the same situation as him and had been in incarceration or had something happen in their life, and somebody stepped up and helped them. So this person was helping them buy the vehicle and helped him get it so he could get his feet back on the ground, and they bought it, and they were very happy to use it. He knew he needed to do some brake work and some other stuff to it. But, there's times, I guess my point is, you got to be realistic about what you're buying when you get into some of those price ranges. If it's a $5,000 car and you see that a really, really nice one out there is $10,000, and that's kind of the going rate when you look at the websites, there's probably a reason it's $5,000. It's because it's got a dent in the right rear door. It's because it's got a rear brakes that are grinding, and they're telling you about it. So just be realistic about what you're paying and what you're buying too, I guess, would be a point.
You bet. All right. Used cars under $5,000. This has been another episode of Under the Hood. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. Chris will be back soon. We promise. Maybe. We hope. Well,
he's got to be.
If we're lucky.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Take care.